Hello, and welcome to Science for Sleep, a quiet place where your curiosity can stretch out and your thoughts can float gently into the stars. Tonight, we're going to explore a concept that's bigger than anything you can hold, and yet somehow it lives inside even the smallest things. We're talking about infinity, a word that whispers of endless skies, of numbers that never stop, and of mysteries too deep to ever run out. But don't worry, this isn't a lecture, and it's not a puzzle to solve. It's a story, a slow, calming journey through what infinity means. In math, in the universe, and in the quiet corners of your own mind. So find a comfortable position, let your breath slow down, and allow your imagination to wander, not to find an ending, but to rest in the beauty of things that have no end. Let's begin. You lie still beneath the ceiling, where a faint breath of air curls past your cheek. Your body sinks into softness, and the edges of the day begin to blur. Outside, the night stretches quietly, holding the world in its vast, hush-colored arms. And inside your mind, something begins to stir, slow and smooth, like the ripple of a thought turning into a dream. Your eyes close, but your awareness remains, light and floating, like a leaf carried by a breeze you can't see. And soon, without trying, your thoughts begin to wander. Where do they go, these gentle thoughts of yours? They drift past the events of the day, past the names and faces, past the plans and things undone. They move beyond the room, beyond the house, lifting lightly above the trees, the clouds, the curve of the earth. And then, they find themselves asking a question that has no clear beginning. What is infinity? It doesn't arrive with a shout. It's not loud or urgent. It's more like a whisper, a shimmer, a quiet tug behind your ribs. You've heard the word before, in school, in stories, maybe even in the soft turn of a child's voice, counting up and up and up. 1, 2, 3, a million, a billion, infinity. A finish line that's also the starting line again. But now, as you lie here in the hush of your room, the word feels different. It feels wide. You begin to wonder, is infinity a number? Is it a place? A shape? A feeling? You try to picture it, and your mind stretches out in response. You see a hallway with no end, lined with doors that lead to more hallways, each just as endless. You imagine a field of stars, not just thousands, not millions, but stars spilling across the sky forever. Each time you try to reach the edge, there is more. More sky, more thought, more mystery. Infinity doesn't fit into a box or a jar. It's like trying to cup water with your hands. The moment you think you have it, it slips through your fingers. And yet, here you are, holding it in your mind. Gently, curiously, there's a kind of peace in not knowing, in allowing something to be larger than you can measure, like sitting at the edge of an ocean and letting it be vast. Your breath deepens, your shoulders soften, and still your mind wanders. It floats to the edge of what you know and peers beyond. You think of time, the way moments seem to stretch on some days and vanish on others. You think of space, not just the stars above, but the space between your thoughts, between your breaths. Could those be infinite, too? You remember a dream you once had, where you kept walking through doors that led to other rooms, each stranger and more beautiful than the last. No matter how far you went, there was always another door. Was that dream infinity, wearing the shape of imagination? There's a soft excitement now, not the kind that speeds up your heart, but the kind that lingers like a warm light in the chest. The idea that something can go on forever, not because you need it to, but simply because it can. You remember drawing the infinity symbol in the corner of a notebook once, a sideways figure eight. So simple, so small, and yet it holds so much. A line that loops back on itself forever. An elegant shape that says, "This never ends." You wonder who first thought of infinity, who stared at the world and imagined a number beyond all numbers. Long ago, philosophers in ancient Greece puzzled over the endless. Some feared it, some found it beautiful. And for mathematicians today, infinity is more than an idea. It's a tool, a concept that helps describe things that have no limit. But tonight, for you, it is something more personal. It is the shape of your wonder. It is the space where your thoughts go to stretch and breathe. You begin to notice how many kinds of infinity might exist. There's the kind that lives in numbers, countable, growing, without end. There's the kind that lives in the universe, distances that outpace light, time that outruns clocks. There's even the infinity between two heartbeats, a silence that feels bigger than sound. And then there is the infinity of your imagination, the most mysterious of all, the place inside you where thoughts are born and never fully end, where curiosity feeds itself in gentle circles, like ripples spreading through water. Tonight, as you rest, you are not just lying in bed. You are journeying through thought. You are touching a concept older than stars, wider than galaxies, quieter than breath. You are meeting infinity, not to define it, not to conquer it, but simply to feel it. Let your mind keep wandering. Let it trace the outline of the endless. There is no map, no destination, only this, a quiet awareness that some things are meant to be wondered at, not solved. And in that wondering, you find rest. The room feels still. The world softens around the edges. You are floating, not through space, but through understanding, gentle, unhurried, whole. And as your eyes grow heavier, you notice something quietly forming in your mind. A line that stretches forward, one thought after another, never stopping, never repeating exactly. Where does that line go? And how far can it reach? That's a question for another night, or maybe for the next breath you take. Because infinity is not just out there. Sometimes it begins in something as simple as a line that never ends. Close your eyes and picture a line, not a short one, not a ruler's edge or a street's length, but a line that stretches beyond your sight, beyond the edges of maps, beyond the farthest star you've ever imagined. A line that goes on and on and on. You can never reach the end because there is no end. That's the quiet shape of mathematical infinity. It's a simple idea on the surface, numbers that never stop, a line that never breaks. But as you lie here, slowly breathing, you begin to feel how big and how oddly gentle that idea really is. You start with 1, then 2, then 3. The numbers rise like steps up a staircase that never finishes. No matter how high you climb, there's always one more step waiting. The higher you count, the further the next number lies in the distance. And here's the thing, you never run out. There's no last number, no edge where the line suddenly stops. Infinity isn't a number at all. It's the idea that numbers don't end. They keep unfolding like soft ripples in your mind. You can feel it in your breath, steady, repeating, never done. Inhale, exhale, one breath, then another, and another still. Each breath is a number. Each one adds to the invisible count of your life. Even in sleep, your body is quietly counting. Heartbeats, dreams, rhythms. Mathematicians call this kind of infinity countable. It means that even if the list goes on forever, you can still go step by step, like pearls on a string that never ends. 1, 2, 3. You keep walking. Imagine this infinite line on a piece of paper. It begins somewhere in the middle, at 0, then stretches endlessly in both directions. Negative numbers trail behind you like shadows. Positive numbers lead forward like stars on a dark road. You can walk in either direction forever, but you'll never reach the edge, because the line has no edge. In mathematics, they sometimes draw this idea as a symbol, infinity, a gentle loop like a sideways figure 8. No corners, no stops, just smooth continuation. It looks like the line is curled in on itself, not because it ends, but because we can't draw forever on paper. So we loop it, a soft reminder that what goes on without end also returns again and again. Even the simplest ideas contain infinity if you look closely. Think of a mirror reflecting another mirror. The image folds into itself, smaller and smaller, stretching deeper and deeper. You can't see the end, only the echo. That's infinity too. Or think of a child asking, "What comes after the biggest number?" And an adult replying, "There's always one more." That answer, quiet, infinite, is the heart of this chapter. There's always one more. And yet, infinity doesn't rush. It doesn't demand you know it all. It simply waits, calmly stretching its line out before you. You don't have to chase it. Only feel its rhythm, like a quiet hum in the background of thought. Now you turn the line sideways, like the horizon at dusk. You follow it with your eyes, far, far into the haze. Even though your vision fades, the line continues. It doesn't stop just because you can't see it anymore. That's the nature of infinity. It doesn't need your eyes to exist. It simply is. A silent presence in the world of numbers, of space, of thought. And this line, this never-ending ribbon, exists not only in drawings or theories. It lives inside time, inside space, inside the way you keep wondering, keep learning, keep reaching. Infinity isn't loud. It's not a roar. It's a whisper telling you, there is more. And when your mind begins to feel tired, this idea can be comforting. Because you don't have to know everything. You don't have to reach the end. There is no pressure in infinity. Only peace in knowing there's always more road ahead. Always another step. Always room to grow. Even when the world feels small, your room, your town, your screen, the infinite line is still there, stretching through your thoughts, through time, through space. And sometimes that simple image, a line that never ends, is enough to rest your head upon. Because in a way, infinity tells you a secret. You are part of something that doesn't run out. You are walking a line that never ends. So take another breath, and another. Let the line carry you forward, gently. And as you drift deeper into stillness, a quiet thought begins to rise. If numbers never end, then how many stars are there to count? How many galaxies hang in the night? How far can space really stretch? Before it, too, disappears into the soft unknown. You turn your gaze upward, toward the next question, toward the stars that shine on a sky that has no edge. You begin to wonder how far the universe stretches. If numbers never stop, do the stars? And if you tried to count them all, one by one, would you ever finish? Or would they, too, go on forever? You lie back in the quiet of your room, the world dim and hushed. Your body sinks gently into the bed, and above you, at least in your mind, a sky unfolds. It's not just any sky. It's the kind of night you've seen in pictures from observatories or far-off deserts. One without clouds, without city lights, a sky so black and still, it feels like the whole universe is holding its breath. And then, there they are, the stars. At first, you notice only a few, twinkling like scattered pinpricks across velvet. But as your gaze softens, more begin to emerge, hundreds, then thousands. Each one appears as if called forward by your attention. And still, they keep coming. You try to count them. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 50. But quickly, your numbers fall behind. Your breath slows. You realize that the more you look, the more stars you see. It's as though the sky keeps giving, revealing a secret infinity, layer by layer, farther than your eyes, or even your imagination, can follow. This is not the tidy infinity of numbers. This is a vast, living kind of infinite, and it begins in the sky. There are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth. It's a statement you may have heard before. Simple, poetic, and yet almost impossible to grasp. But tonight, you let it settle in your chest like a calming truth. You don't need to verify it. You just feel the size of it. A quiet immensity. Our galaxy alone, the Milky Way, holds over 100 billion stars. It stretches across the sky like a faint white ribbon if you're far enough from city lights. And beyond it, there are billions of other galaxies. Each one, its own island of stars, floating in a vast cosmic ocean. You imagine drifting among them, slow, weightless, timeless. You float past stars that are newborn and hot, stars that are dying and dim. You pass by planets spinning silently, some maybe like Earth, others nothing like it at all. In this space, time feels stretched, soft, without direction. The deeper you drift, the more endless it feels. This is the scale of the cosmos. And scale, too, is a kind of infinity. Astronomers call it the observable universe, the part we can see, stretching about 93 billion light years across. But even this is only the part we know about. Beyond that, there may be more, much more. Maybe even an infinite amount of space, expanding outward in all directions, forever. Infinity, out here, isn't just a thought. It's stitched into the fabric of space. The light from the most distant galaxies has been traveling for billions of years to reach us. That means when you look into the night sky, you're not just seeing stars. You're seeing time. You're witnessing ancient light, born long before your world, your language, your breath. Some of the stars you see no longer exist. Their light is all that remains, a message that took eons to arrive. So in a way, lying here, looking up, you are not just watching the stars. You are listening to the past. You are resting beneath a sky filled with memories. And still, the universe expands. This isn't just poetic. It's measurable. Scientists have discovered that galaxies are moving away from each other. Space itself is stretching, like a balloon slowly inflating. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it races away. This was one of the most astonishing discoveries of the 20th century, that the universe has no edges, no borders, no fixed end. It just keeps going. The cause of this expansion? A mysterious force we call dark energy. We don't fully understand what it is, only that it's causing the universe to grow faster over time. It's not pushing things through space, it's making space itself expand. And so, the stars keep drifting apart, the distances between galaxies growing. Even light, which seems so fast, can't keep up with the ever-widening gap. One day, billions of years from now, distant galaxies may disappear from view entirely, too far and too fast for their light to reach us. The universe may grow lonelier for future eyes, but tonight, you can still see them. Tonight, you are wrapped in a universe still glittering with company. You begin to understand. Infinity isn't something you conquer. It's something you rest inside. It doesn't need to be counted or mapped. It can simply be felt. In the quiet between your heartbeats. In the space between stars. And yet, the stars teach you something else, too. Even in all their number, even across all this distance, each one is a single point of light. Each one burns with its own story, its own time, its own dance of gravity and fusion and flare. It's easy to feel small beneath a sky like this. But that's not what the stars are saying. They're saying, you are part of this. You are not beneath infinity. You are within it. You imagine yourself zooming in now, not out toward the galaxies, but inward, toward the spaces between atoms, into the architecture of light and energy and matter. Even there, in the tiny, there is no end. And yet, for now, you remain here, in your bed, in your body, in your breath. Still, small, safe. You close your eyes, and even behind your lids, the stars remain. You don't need to count them anymore. You've let them count you. And somewhere in the silence, you begin to wonder if there can be infinity in the large. Could there also be infinity in the small? Could endlessness exist not just above you, but between the numbers themselves? What hides in the quiet spaces between 1 and 2? You lie still, your body soft beneath the weight of blankets, your breath rising and falling like a gentle tide. Outside, the world sleeps. Inside, your thoughts drift quietly, as if searching for something just out of reach. You think of numbers, simple, familiar. 1, 2, 3. A sequence so smooth, it feels like stepping stones over a quiet stream. But tonight, your mind hesitates. What lives between those stones? You pause between 1 and 2, and instead of emptiness, you find a secret world, a quiet space filled not with silence, but with something endless. Between 1 and 2, there is 1.5, then 1.1, and 1.01, and 1.001. The more closely you look, the more you find. 1.0000001. Smaller and smaller steps, like grains of sand slipping between your fingers. You could spend forever exploring this narrow space, and still never find the final number before 2. This is the infinity hiding in the small. It's easy to imagine infinity as something enormous. Galaxies upon galaxies, stars scattered like snow across black velvet skies. But not all infinities stretch outward. Some fold inward. Some curl into spaces so tiny they seem to vanish. But they don't. In mathematics, these are called rational numbers, irrational numbers, fractions, and decimals. But those words don't matter right now. What matters is the feeling that between every two numbers, no matter how close they seem, there is always another number, and another, and another. You can zoom in forever, and you'll never reach the end. It's like looking at a coastline on a map. From far away, it looks smooth. But walk along the shore, and you see every twist and pebble, every grain of sand shaped by the waves. Zoom in further, and even the sand is made of tiny fragments, and those fragments of even tinier ones. This is the idea of infinite division. The space between things never runs out. You could keep cutting something in half, and in half again, and in half again, and never stop. You close your eyes and picture it. A thread split into two, each half split again. Threads becoming threads, until they're thinner than air. But still there, still present. That's the strange comfort of the infinite. It tells you that nothing is too small to matter, that even the tiniest spaces are full of mystery. You may have heard of a number called pi, the one that begins with 3.14 and never stops. It goes on forever, never repeating, never ending. Even though it fits snugly in your calculator or on a pi box, it hides an endless story within its digits. A number with no pattern, yet full of structure. A kind of quiet, contained infinity, whispering inside something so ordinary as a circle. Then there's 0.9 repeating, 0.999. A number that looks like it's almost one, but never quite there. But here's the surprise, it is one. Mathematically, perfectly, completely the same. An infinite string that becomes a whole. A riddle that feels like poetry. Infinity plays gently with the edges of what you think you know. It invites you to hold two truths at once. That you can always find more numbers between numbers. And yet, sometimes, the infinite path leads you back to something whole. You breathe slowly, the air around you still, and you begin to see infinity not as something loud or dramatic, not lightning or galaxies, but as something quiet, like the hush of snowfall, like candlelight on skin. Infinity is in the softness between thoughts, in the time between heartbeats, in the silence between words. Your mind drifts to sound. Imagine two musical notes, a low hum and a high chime. Between them, there are endless pitches, tones, and vibrations. The space between sounds is not empty. It is alive with potential, just like the space between numbers. Mathematicians have given names to these infinities. Countable, uncountable. But what matters most isn't the label. It's the realization that not all infinities are the same. Some can be listed, like stepping one by one through a field. Others are too vast even for that. They fill space so completely that no list can capture them. The infinity between 1 and 2, the one you're exploring now, is one of these uncountable infinities. It cannot be placed in neat order. It's more like fog than footsteps, more like mist than map. You find that strangely comforting, because even though you may never grasp all its pieces, you can feel its presence. A boundless richness inside something as small as a single moment, or a single breath. And perhaps that's what infinity teaches you, that depth matters as much as distance, that the vast and the microscopic both carry wonder, that something can be endlessly full, even if it seems almost invisible. You lie quietly, letting the thoughts settle, Between the numbers, between your thoughts, a sense of spaciousness unfolds. There is room here, infinite room. And if there's endlessness in the small, what else might be hiding in plain sight? What happens when infinity begins to twist and fold, bending your expectations, turning logic into mystery and certainty into play? You begin to sense it coming. Those strange little puzzles that make the mind smile and the heart lean closer. Paradoxes, riddles, infinite tricks that never quite resolve. What happens, you wonder softly, when you try to reach the finish line but the path keeps dividing? When the mind walks in circles that never close? When logic leads to laughter? You're about to find out. You lie still, and your mind begins to wander, not wildly, but like a leaf floating downstream, curious and unhurried. Tonight, infinity wears a different face. Not the vastness of stars, not the endless string of numbers, but something lighter, playful, curious. It leans in close, with a crooked smile and a glimmer in its eye. Not here to overwhelm you, just to invite you into a puzzle with no pressure to solve. Your thoughts land on a runner, light-footed and determined, standing at the start of a race. Ahead lies the finish line, but there's a twist. Before the runner can reach the finish, she must first get halfway there. And before that, halfway to halfway. And before that, another half. Each step requires another step first. A smaller step, then a smaller one. Again and again. An infinite number of steps before the first real movement. So how can the runner ever begin? This is Zeno's paradox, and it doesn't demand an answer. It only asks you to notice how strange it is that motion exists at all when logic insists it shouldn't. Yet, your own breath proves it does. The runner runs. You breathe. The world turns, despite the puzzle. Infinity is not always out there in the stars. Sometimes it hides in the smallest things, like steps so tiny they become endless. A race that never begins, yet somehow always ends. You breathe in that contradiction. It doesn't need to be resolved. It just is. A soft riddle wrapped in motion. Now picture a hotel. Not just any hotel. This one stretches on forever. Every room is filled. No vacancy signs glow from every hallway. And yet, stranger still, the hotel manager can always make room for more. This is Hilbert's Hotel, another mind-bending gift from infinity. Imagine guest number 1 in room 1, guest number 2 in room 2, and so on, forever. One guest per room, every room occupied. Now, a new traveler arrives at the door, hoping for a place to sleep. No problem, says the manager. We'll just move guest 1 to room 2, guest 2 to room 3, and so on. Each guest shifts one room over. A simple shuffle in a hotel that never ends. And just like that, room 1 is empty again. Infinity has made space. It's nonsensical and beautiful. A trick of the mind that doesn't quite fit in your pocket, but still nestles softly into your thoughts. Infinity doesn't follow your everyday logic. It bends around corners, folds time and space into shapes that feel more like dreams than rules. And still, it obeys its own strange rhythm. You let the image linger, a hallway of endless doors, always with one more space, one more possibility. Infinity makes room, even when everything seems full. Now drift to a different kind of paradox, the infinite monkey theorem. It goes like this. If you give a monkey a typewriter and an infinite amount of time, Eventually, it will type out the complete works of Shakespeare. Every letter, every comma, every act and scene, all by chance. You smile, imagining the monkey tapping away, curious and aimless, unaware of what it's creating. Not because it's smart, just because infinity allows for even the rarest outcomes, if you wait long enough. It sounds ridiculous, and maybe it is. But the lesson here is gentle. Infinity contains all things, even the impossible ones. Given endless time, endless tries, even the most improbable story can unfold. Maybe not today, maybe not in a million years, but one day, if infinity allows. That's the strange comfort of it. You don't have to rush. You don't have to know. Even the wildest possibilities live inside forever. Your thoughts now turn to Gabriel's horn, a shape born from the union of mathematics and paradox. It looks like a trumpet, flaring out endlessly in one direction. A funnel that grows thinner and thinner, stretching to infinity. Here's the twist. Gabriel's horn has infinite surface area, but finite volume. You could fill it with a spoonful of paint, but you'd never have enough paint to coat its surface. It makes no sense, and yet the math says it's true. Like trying to wrap your arms around a cloud. This paradox isn't meant to be gripped tightly. It's meant to be watched, gently, from the edge of sleep. Just another whisper from infinity, reminding you that not everything can be held. Some truths are only meant to be felt. And now, a simpler image, a sheet of paper. Draw a point in the center, then draw another. How many points can you place before the page is full? As many as you like. Because between any 2 points, there's always room for another. And another. And another still. You could place points forever and never run out of space. This is density, the quiet infinity inside even the smallest things. Your fingertip, the space between seconds, the pause between heartbeats. Infinity lives not just in the stars, but between the ticks of your clock. Not just out there, but here, so close you almost miss it. Let the paradoxes swirl gently now. Don't try to solve them. Let them tickle the edges of your mind like wind brushing the surface of still water. They don't exist to be unraveled. They exist to remind you that some parts of the universe are meant to stay mysterious. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's a gift to be a creature who can wonder without needing to know. To lie in bed with a head full of riddles and still find peace. Infinity shows itself not just in scale, but in confusion, in the joy of not knowing, in the comfort of questions that have no end. The runner never finishes the race. The hotel always has room. The monkey types Shakespeare. The horn holds paradox in its shape. These are the bedtime stories infinity tells itself. You're not alone in wondering. Philosophers, scientists, mathematicians, they all sit beside the same quiet fire of thought, eyes wide open, smiling at puzzles, dreaming in loops and loops of logic. Tonight, you join them, a silent thinker wrapped in softness, letting the mind wander just far enough. You drift now, not to answers, but to acceptance. And just before sleep takes you, a thought flickers. If paradoxes make you question the rules, what happens when the rules themselves begin to bend? If infinity can exist in motion and in stillness, what about time? Does time end? Or does it curl into forever, like a spiral that never stops? Does a single moment stretch endlessly? Or are there infinite moments tucked inside a second? And if time is a river, where does it flow? There is something quietly comforting about the shape of a circle. It asks nothing of you. It simply is, smooth, unbroken, complete. You trace it in your mind now, slowly, gently, round and round. No corners to startle you, no sharp turns to confuse. Only the soft turning over and over again. This is where we begin, with a line that doesn't end. You see it everywhere, this shape of forever. The sun rises, the day unfolds, and then it folds back into night. The moon waxes, then wanes, then returns again. Your breath flows in and flows out and returns again. The rhythm of life is not linear. It is circular, and each loop reminds you. Infinity doesn't always stretch. Sometimes it simply returns. Close your eyes and imagine a spinning wheel. Its edge moves, but its center stays still. The motion is constant, but calm. A wheel, a ring, a halo, a planet in orbit, all belong to the family of circles. And in their turning, they hold a secret. That time, too, may not be a straight line. Ancient people understood this. They marked seasons not by clocks, but by cycles, harvest and winter, growth and rest. They watched the stars loop across the sky and believed time would always return. Even now, your own body honors those rhythms. The heartbeat, the breath, the sleep that follows waking. You live inside many loops, even when you don't notice them. Now imagine a spiral. It begins like a circle, but it moves. It travels outward or inward, depending on how you look at it. It's a loop that stretches, a rhythm that evolves. You might see it in a seashell, in the way a hurricane curls, or in the arms of a galaxy. It's what happens when infinity decides to dance. Spirals feel like movement with memory. They don't just go forward, they carry the past in every turn. Think of a pine cone or the swirl of a sunflower. Nature seems to love spirals, as if the shape itself is a quiet celebration of beauty and balance. Not chaos, but organized growth. A slow and sacred unfolding. There is something magical about how spirals hold both change and return. They never come back exactly to where they started, but they're never too far. You can be different and still be home. That's a kind of infinity your heart already understands. Now consider the orbit, a more refined circle born from gravity. Planets spin around stars, moons around planets. These aren't perfect circles, but they are predictable dances. Loops that bind space and time in a quiet partnership. You are part of this cosmic choreography. Right now, as you lie still, the earth spins beneath you, turning around the sun at over 66,000 miles per hour. And the sun, too, is moving, looping through the galaxy. You're never standing still. You're always spinning in some great, invisible circle. Infinity lives here, not in straight lines, but in motion that repeats. And in each repetition, a chance to begin again. This is not the infinity of falling into the unknown, but of returning to the familiar, of knowing that what goes out comes back, of trusting that some endings are only new beginnings in disguise. Even in your own thoughts, you loop. You revisit old memories, replay old dreams, circle around unsolved questions. And that's okay. Circles are not failures to move forward. They are invitations to deepen, to see again with softer eyes. Some people fear infinity because it feels like falling, like being lost in something too big. But this kind of infinity feels different. It feels like a hug, like a cradle, like something that will always return for you. You may have heard of the Ouroboros, the ancient symbol of a serpent eating its own tail, a mysterious emblem of eternal return. To some, it meant life feeds on itself. To others, it meant death leads back to life. To you, maybe, it simply means you are always becoming, again and again. Mathematics, too, finds comfort in circles. Pi, the number you get when you divide a circle's circumference by its diameter, is infinite. It goes on forever, never repeating, never ending. 3.14159, and on, and on, and on. Even within the most perfect shape, infinity hides, quietly humming beneath the surface. Not shouting for attention, just existing. You may think of progress as a straight path forward, but often wisdom circles back. You return to old truths with new understanding. You revisit ideas, not to repeat, but to deepen. This is the spiral of learning, the loop of healing, the orbit of becoming. And just as the tides return to the shore, you return to yourself. Not the same person you were, but not a stranger either. Infinity doesn't have to be far away. Sometimes, it's just the part of you that keeps turning toward home. Tonight, as you close your eyes, picture yourself gently spinning. Not dizzy, not lost, but held in a pattern older than time. A spiral of breath, a circle of dreams, a loop of quiet wonder. You may not know where the pattern began or where it will end, but for now, it's enough to rest inside its rhythm, to feel the soft spin of stars and cells and thoughts, to know that even while sleeping, you are part of something infinite. And as your mind begins to quiet, you may start to wonder, if circles return and spirals grow, then what does it mean when time moves without ever stopping? When one moment stretches into the next, and the next, and the next? Time is a soft river, and you are floating on your back, eyes open to the sky. There is no rush. The current is slow. Around you, everything quiets. Your thoughts, your limbs, your breath, all seem to sway in time's invisible tide. You feel it, even when you can't see it. You measure it with clocks, calendars, and aging skin. But here, in the hush of night, time feels different. It feels like it stretches out without an end. You wonder, what if time doesn't stop? What if it never has and never will? Right now, your body is still, but your mind drifts. You think about seconds ticking away, minutes slipping through fingers, hours that come and go like shadows on the wall. But even those are just names you've given to something bigger, deeper, stranger. Time isn't something you can hold. It's something you live inside of. Imagine this. You're standing on a beach, watching the horizon. The sun rises, then sets. The moon climbs, then fades. The tides come in, then roll back. Everything is motion. But between those motions, there is rhythm, a heartbeat of the world. You can't see it, but you trust it's there. That rhythm is time, and it never ends. In physics, time is treated like a dimension, like length or height. But unlike space, you can't go backward. You only move forward, carried by something that feels like a gentle breeze or a wave that never turns around. And yet, your experience of time doesn't always match the clock. There are moments, golden, weightless, unforgettable, when time seems to stop. A conversation that fills your chest with light. A night under stars that feels like forever. A first kiss a last goodbye, a sudden realization in the middle of a quiet day. In those moments, something timeless opens up inside you, a stillness that stretches. You don't remember everything in your life, but you remember those. Why? Because they echo. They linger like perfume in an empty room. That lingering is a kind of infinity too, not in numbers, but in feeling. Science tells you time began with the Big Bang, around 13.8 billion years ago. That was the moment when space and time, like two threads in the same fabric, were woven into existence. Before that, there may have been nothing, or something outside the boundaries of what we can imagine. No before, because time itself didn't exist yet. But since then, time has been flowing outward, like ripples from a stone dropped into still water. It's taken stars billions of years to form, galaxies even longer to gather, and your own body countless generations to become what it is. You are the result of time, a sculpture carved by it. And yet, you only ever live in the now. This moment, the breath you're taking, the stillness of your limbs, the thought gently drifting through your mind, is all you ever truly hold. The past is memory. The future is dream. But this moment is where everything happens. Still, even the present is slippery. By the time you notice it, it's already gone. But what if now isn't a single tick of the clock, but a stretch? A slow glow instead of a flash? Some physicists suggest time might not be as smooth as we think. It may be made of tiny units, discrete chunks, unimaginably small, flowing one after another like frames in a film reel. But your brain smooths them out, just as your eyes smooth out the flicker of a movie. You don't feel the gaps. You feel the motion. In this way, time is not just outside you. It's shaped by you. When you're scared, time crawls. When you're happy, it flies. When you're bored, it drips like a leaky faucet. When you're absorbed, in music, in love, in wonder, time dissolves. These aren't tricks. They're reflections of how your brain and heart interact with the world. Time isn't just measured by seconds. It's measured by memory, by attention, by meaning. That's why 1 year can feel long when you're a child, but short when you're older. It's why a quiet afternoon can feel eternal, while a whole decade can slip past in a breath. The more novelty you experience, the more time seems to expand. Routine compresses it. Wonder stretches it. Time is elastic. You may not be able to control the ticking of the clock, but you can choose how you fill it, how you pay attention, how you remember. In that way, you create your own infinities, not in endless duration, but in depth. There's also the concept of deep time, a way of thinking used in geology and cosmology. It refers to the incomprehensible stretches of time that shape mountains, rivers, planets. Millions of years of slow pressure, slow change. Deep time isn't human time. It moves like continents. It doesn't hurry. It simply is. And yet, your body is made from deep time, from atoms forged in ancient stars, from molecules carried by oceans older than memory. Inside you, deep time lives. You're not separate from the vast sweep of history. You're a moment within it. And even though moments feel small, they are not meaningless. Infinity is not always big. Sometimes it hides in what seems tiny, in a single glance, in a pause, in a breath. Think of love. Think of music. Think of silence. In these, time takes a new shape, one that isn't always measurable, but deeply felt. one that feels infinite even if it only lasts a minute. That's the strange beauty of time. It flows, but it also loops. You return to certain thoughts again and again. Certain feelings rise like the tide. History repeats. Seasons circle. Sleep returns. You live in a spiral, not a line. And maybe, just maybe, that spiral never ends. Some theories in cosmology suggest time could stretch on forever, that even after every star fades, the universe might continue in darkness, cold, quiet, but not truly stopped. Or that time could bend in on itself. Loop, begin again. But these are questions without clear answers. And perhaps answers aren't the point. Perhaps the comfort lies in knowing time is bigger than you, and yet flows through you like breath. As you rest here tonight, let go of the clock. Let go of the pressure to make sense of time. Instead, feel it. Let it hold you. Let it carry you gently forward. And when you drift, when your thoughts loosen and your body softens, know that time doesn't demand anything from you. It simply continues, whether you chase it or not. You are floating on that river still, not rushing, just drifting. And far ahead, without edges or end, the stars shine on, reminding you that time and space are woven together. That when you ask how long something lasts, you are also asking, how far does it reach? How big is the place in which all of time unfolds? And in the next quiet breath, you'll begin to wonder, how big is the universe, really? You close your eyes, and in the hush of your breath, the room begins to disappear. Above you, behind you, within you, the darkness stretches wide. You're no longer anchored to your bed or your body. Instead, your mind begins to float. A soft exhale becomes a kind of launch. You drift up, slow and weightless, through layers of sky that grow thinner and colder. The clouds vanish beneath you like a curtain drawn aside. Now you are rising through the ink-blue quiet of space. The earth fades behind, round and glowing, a blue whisper in the distance. You are moving faster now, beyond the moon, past the sun, past all the familiar names you learned as a child. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, they shrink into pale marbles. Soon, even the solar system is just a speck behind you. You are no longer in a neighborhood of planets. You are out in the wider city of stars, the Milky Way. A spiral of glittering lights, so immense that it would take a beam of light over 100,000 years just to cross it. Yet even this vast swirl is just one among many. You begin to understand. The universe is not a place with walls. It does not sit inside a box. There are no fences, no signs that say end of all things. There is only more stars, more darkness, more silence, more light. The galaxies are not scattered randomly. They form clusters and superclusters, like constellations of constellations woven across the night. Filaments of gravity stretch between them like invisible threads in a vast web. This is the cosmic web, the structure of the universe on its largest scale. You float along one of those threads, slowly spiraling. A galaxy cluster blooms below you like a glowing coral reef in a dark sea. Thousands of galaxies spin, each one with billions of stars, each star with its own possibilities. And you, small, still, safe, drift through it all, watching. You begin to wonder, how big is this place? Is there a map? A measuring stick? An edge you could one day reach? Scientists have asked the same questions. They send radio waves, launch telescopes, study the light from faraway places. They use redshift, the stretching of light, to tell how fast things are moving away. And from these whispers of data, they sketch the outlines of what we call the observable universe. It is vast, unimaginably so. From where you lie tonight, the edge of what we can see is about 46 billion light years in every direction. Not because the universe is only that size, but because light hasn't had time to reach us from farther away. The cosmos might stretch on much more, infinitely more, but we cannot yet see beyond that glowing curtain. Imagine standing in the center of a silent field at night. Fog surrounds you on all sides. Your flashlight shows only what's near. The rest exists, but hidden, waiting. That's what it means to live inside a universe with limits to your vision, but no known limits to its size. Some theories suggest the universe curves around itself, like the surface of a sphere, finite, but with no edge. Others imagine it as flat and infinite, expanding forever into unknown space. Still others speak of multiverses, perhaps an infinite number of other realities, humming side by side with ours. But here, in this chapter of your sleep, none of those ideas are frightening. They are soft and strange, like dreams you almost remember. You think of the expansion, not just of galaxies moving away from each other, but of space itself stretching like dough. The distance between things grows, even though nothing is flying through space. Instead, space is unfolding. Like a balloon being blown up, the galaxies ride along its surface, moving apart not because they push away, but because the fabric beneath them expands. This expansion is accelerating, and scientists don't yet know why. They whisper about dark energy, a mysterious force pushing everything apart. You imagine it as a quiet breath behind the stars, an invisible sigh that nudges the universe ever outward. Time feels different out here. You look at galaxies so far away, their light left them billions of years ago. You're not just seeing space, you're seeing the past. Some of that light began its journey before Earth even existed, before your ancestors, before the oceans, before language. The farther you look, the older the light. At the farthest reaches, you glimpse the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in the universe, a faint echo from the birth of everything. It hums across the sky, gentle and uniform, a baby picture of the cosmos. And what lies beyond that? Here, science pauses. The data thins. The maps end. But your imagination does not. You drift farther, not to find answers, but to rest beside the questions. You float in a sea without edges, in a room without walls, in a thought that has no final word. Infinity is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. It arrives not with thunder, but with the sound of your own slow breath, and the stretch of your imagination just before sleep. And even now, the universe is still becoming. Galaxies form and fade. Stars are born, burn, and die. Black holes spin in silence, holding mysteries we have only begun to touch. But in all this vastness, you are not lost. You are part of it, made of the same atoms as stars, shaped by the same gravity that pulls the moon and turns the tides. Your body, your thoughts, your questions, they are woven into this endless thing. And as you drift, you begin to wonder again. not just about the farthest edge of the universe, but about the edges inside smaller things. If space can be infinite, could the spaces within things, between moments, between numbers, also go on forever? You turn your gaze now, not outward, but inward. You think of what lies between 1 and 2, of the soft infinity hiding in the small. You lie still. Your body settles into the hush of the night, your chest rising and falling in slow, even waves. You've traveled far, across numbers, stars, paradoxes. And now, without going anywhere, you arrive somewhere new, inside. Infinity isn't just far away in the cosmos or stretched across the span of time. It's in you, not metaphorically, but truly, beautifully, scientifically, right here, beneath your skin, within the quiet rhythms of your living self. Each breath you take is a cycle, a pattern, a loop, repeating endlessly until sleep finds you. And even then, your breath keeps dancing. The same looping motion exists in your heartbeat, in your blinking, in the swirl of your thoughts. These patterns don't go on forever, but they echo the shape of the infinite, continuous, fluid, without sharp beginnings or ends. Look closer. Beneath the skin lies a hidden geometry, one that whispers of endlessness. Your lungs branch out like trees, not once, not twice, but again and again, airways dividing into smaller airways, over and over, down to the tiniest sacs where oxygen is cradled. This is a fractal. Fractals are patterns that repeat at different scales, the same shape appearing again and again, no matter how close you look. The branches of your lungs are fractals. So are the branching neurons in your brain, the vessels in your eyes, the shape of your fingerprints, the structure of snowflakes, the delicate lace of your veins, the patterns in the petals of a flower. Infinity hides in the repetition, not because it goes on forever in space, but because it holds a rhythm that feels eternal. Mathematicians use fractals to describe objects that are too complex for simple shapes, curves that bend inside themselves, edges that never smooth out. But your body doesn't need math to know how to grow this way. It just does, like trees growing toward sunlight or rivers carving paths down hillsides. Nature builds complexity through simple repetition. One cell becomes two, two become four. A pattern emerges. Life unfolds, not in straight lines, but in loops and echoes. Inside your brain, trillions of neural connections fire in complex harmony. Your thoughts, memories, and dreams arise from this intricate web, a living infinity that changes with each experience. You can imagine stars you've never seen. You can picture landscapes that don't exist. You can remember a moment from childhood with a vividness that brings tears to your eyes. All of that, infinite memory, endless creativity, it lives in you. Your imagination, too, has no fixed edge. You can stretch your thoughts beyond galaxies, shrink them down to the space between atoms, invent colors that have no name, or create entire worlds behind closed eyes. Where is the boundary? There may be none. Your mind is not infinite in size, but it reaches endlessly. And sometimes, reaching is all that matters. The cells in your body follow patterns so precise, so microscopic, that we can barely see them without special tools. Inside each of those cells is a molecule called DNA, a long, spiraling thread of instructions that tells your body how to build itself. If you stretched out the DNA from a single cell, it would be nearly 2 meters long. If you stretched the DNA from all your cells end to end, it would circle the Earth more than 2 million times. And yet, all that information folds inside you, silent and elegant. It doesn't feel infinite, but its scale is so far beyond your everyday senses that it humbles the idea of boundaries. Infinity doesn't always look big. Sometimes, it looks like a double helix coiled gently in a cell you'll never see. You're made of atoms, tiny building blocks that form everything in the universe. And inside those atoms, empty space, movement, possibility. Electrons don't orbit like planets. They exist in probability clouds, fuzzy regions where they might be, never fixed, always in motion. You are built from uncertainty and pattern, from repetition and chance. Infinity isn't just beyond you. It's in every quiet corner of your being. Even your sense of self, the feeling that you are you, is a story your brain tells across time. And time itself, for you, isn't linear. You relive memories. You dream forward. Your inner world bends time like soft fabric, replaying, skipping, stretching. How long is a moment? How short is a year? The mind reshapes time like an artist with clay, looping and folding it into the infinity of memory. And then there's the mystery of awareness, the strange, shimmering fact that you know you exist. No one can fully explain consciousness. Not yet. It is a field still wrapped in questions. But here you are, thinking, feeling, wondering. You, the universe, become aware of itself through your eyes, your hands, your breath. In that way, you are not separate from infinity. You are its witness, its expression, its living edge. You are made from stars. You breathe air that cycled through the lungs of ancient animals. You are the result of countless generations, an unbroken line of life that began in the ocean and reaches, now, into this quiet room where you lie. And it continues through you. Sometimes, infinity feels too big to grasp, but it doesn't need to be grasped. It can be held lightly, like a feather in the wind, like a thought before sleep. Infinity isn't just out there in the stars or buried in math. It hums in your breath, echoes in your thoughts, and curls in the spiral of your fingertips. So tonight, as your body softens and your mind grows quiet, remember, infinity isn't far away. It's not waiting at the edge of the universe. It's already here, in the looping, lovely miracle of you. And just as infinity folds itself into the smallest spaces, you might begin to wonder, if your body holds such wonders, what other infinities lie just beyond, in the sky, in the stars, in the fabric of everything? What if, above you, beyond what the eye can see, the universe itself stretches without end, and still, somehow, wraps around into the shape of a question? You lie still. The room is dark, quiet, except for the steady rhythm of your breath, a tide that rolls in and out. Your body feels warm beneath the covers. The day has faded, and so has the noise. Now, only your thoughts remain, softer, slower, like the last light stretching across the sky. You begin to float again, not with your feet, but with your mind. It drifts gently, like a feather caught in a breeze, carried past the edges of time and thought, beyond numbers and names, towards something larger, something endless. You are approaching infinity now, not with questions, not with math, but with presence. You've touched it before, in the idea of a line that never ends, in the impossible task of counting stars, in the space between numbers, in the loops of time, the spirals of galaxies, the echoes inside your own heartbeat. And now, here at the very end of your journey, you're not looking for answers. You're not trying to understand infinity. You're learning how to rest inside it. It is not cold. It is not distant. It's the warmth beneath your skin, the pulse behind your thoughts. It's the stretch of the sky and the stillness of this very moment. Infinity, for tonight, is simply being. You close your eyes, and in the soft darkness, you feel the idea again, not as a number, not as a riddle, but as a space. A wide, silent field where nothing needs to be finished. A place where you're allowed to wonder without needing to solve. You remember how infinity hides in the spiral of a shell, in the branching of trees, in the swirl of galaxies too far to name. You think of the curves that never quite meet, but always come close. Asymptotes whispering toward a limit they'll never reach. There's beauty in that almost. Comfort in the stretch. Your breath slows. You recall the way time felt in the previous chapters, long and winding, like a river without a final bend. You traveled across paradoxes and stars and fractions, and every path led back to this same truth. Some things do not end. Some things are not meant to be counted. Some things just are. Infinity, you realize, is not a thing to be solved. It is a feeling, a rhythm, a letting go. And so you let go. You imagine yourself at the edge of space, not standing, just drifting, floating in a place with no gravity, no walls, no horizon, just the hush of forever. The stars are around you, but they're not sharp. They blur softly, like dreams you're not meant to hold too tightly. Even the stars, you now know, won't last forever. They will burn out, collapse, fade. But something remains, a kind of ongoingness that stretches beyond the life of suns. Not noise, not light, just possibility. The possibility of more, of beyond. Infinity lives here, too, not as a fire, but as an ember, a glow that doesn't vanish, a silence that doesn't stop. You think of time, not the ticking kind, the kind that moves without needing to arrive, the kind that holds you now, this very second, and wraps it into a thread that stretches in both directions. You feel that thread tug very gently, past, present, future, all existing here, all wrapped up in you. Infinity isn't out there. It's inside. You carry it in your lungs, in your blood, in your imagination. Every question you've ever asked about the stars, the math, the meaning, it all loops back to the same quiet place. You are here. You are aware. You are part of forever just by existing. And that is enough. You don't need to see the end of space. You don't need to count every grain of sand. You don't need to solve every mystery. Tonight, you only need to rest in the knowing that infinity exists and that it gently holds you. It holds everything. Your memories, your breath, the flicker of thought just before you sleep. It holds galaxies and dust. It holds questions that have never been asked. You think of the child counting stars at the window. You think of the mathematician drawing loops on a chalkboard. You think of yourself, lying here, suspended between wakefulness and dreams. All of us wondering, all of us held. Even sleep feels infinite now, not because of how long it lasts, but because of how deeply it lets you drift. You are not falling into sleep. You are falling with sleep, falling through infinity, like a leaf spinning slowly down into the softest part of the world. And in that falling, there's no rush, no pressure to reach a conclusion, no pressure to be productive. Infinity asks nothing from you but presence. It welcomes you, just as you are. You feel a kind of peace, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that doesn't need to be named. Your body sinks deeper into the bed. Your thoughts become light and loose, like clouds caught in a slow wind. You don't need to hold on to them anymore. You let them float, one thought, then another, until even the thinking dissolves into stillness. Even the idea of infinity now feels like a lullaby, a long note that never ends, a silence that hums. You have walked with stars. You have played with paradoxes. You have stood beside the uncountable. And now you sleep beside it all. In the end, there is no edge, no boundary, only a deep breath and the space that follows. And as you drift, gently, slowly, you begin to wonder something new. If infinity stretches beyond everything you can see, might it also stretch into everything you can't? Might it live inside the smallest places you've yet to explore? And now, you've wandered through the edges of forever, not with your feet, but with your quiet, curious mind. You've touched the never-ending line. You've drifted across galaxies. You've listened to the silence between numbers. Infinity, once too large to hold, now rests gently in your chest, not as a riddle, but as a rhythm. It isn't something to solve tonight. It isn't a number to chase. It's a feeling, a breath, a letting go. You realize now, some things don't need an ending. Some things don't even need understanding. They just need space and stillness. Infinity lives there, in the pause between thoughts, in the hush between heartbeats, in the way your body softens into sleep. You are part of that. You've always been. So close your eyes. There is nothing more to figure out. No final answer. Only the beauty of the unknown. Soft, stretching, silent. Let your thoughts dissolve like stardust. Let your breath slow, like waves curling into shore. Tonight, you don't fall into darkness. You fall into endlessness. Not into nothing, but into everything. And that is more than enough. Good night, dreamer. The infinite is holding you now. Rest easy. You are already there.